Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
USAA.
It's 13 defeats in a row. On this week's Wrap podcast, we troll through the wreckage of Wales's heavy defeat to France, and we try to actually take some positives out of it. And then we look ahead to a massive game in Rome. Can Wales finally win a game of rugby? All that and more on this week's edition of the Wrap podcast.
You're listening to Wrap, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Wrap podcast. I'm Jamie, and joining me for this one is Harley and Nick. Evening, gents.
Good evening.
Evening.
Now, Lee can't be with us this week, so it's a threesome, and we're going to get straight into the action with News Desk. So, Wales, they have called up Tane Plumtree to the Six Nations squad because there were concerns around Aaron Wainwright. So, Wainwright sustained a facial injury, as we know, during the 4th minute and was waiting on scans for a suspected broken cheekbone. However, upon investigation, Wainwright has not sustained a facial fracture or concussion, so that's good news. I guess we all thought Plumtree was going to get called up, didn't we? No real surprises there. I think we called Owen on the WhatsApp group, didn't we, that Plumtree was going to be called up. And then, despite sustaining what looked like an ACL injury, Owen Watkin remains part of the squad as he continues to undergo assessment. It is likely that it's going to end the season, but he is still staying with the Wales squad. No centre cover has been drafted in. So no call up for Gloucester centre Max Llewellyn, which everyone is angry about. But nope, he hasn't called anyone else up. And then in news, which is going to... It seems mad to everyone.
Sorry,
but,
yeah. just whether not the even if it's not Max Llewellyn they call it, it's the fact that Gatlin makes so much thing about having numbers for training, and then he's down a centre when we only have 4 in, and we've bare bones in the backs, and he still doesn't call. I thought he'd call one up just for training cover because he seems to love that. But so I know you want to rattle through the news.
No, I mean I was just looking at the centre options now, and you got Tompkins there, Eddie James, Joe Roberts, Ben Thomas as well. Of course, maybe Gatlin feels that he has the numbers, but it seemed obvious to me that he wasn't going to
10 on the
up.
opposition. If you put Ben Thomas in as a 12, then you haven't got a 10. That's the problem. Unless they're hoping. I mean, there must be some reason Ben still in the squad.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? In other news then, good news that we're all thankful about, tight head prop Will Griff-John has rejoined the squad out in Nice after failing their HIA and sales defeat to Bath 8 days ago. So he's joined up with the squad now. So we're all relieved and delighted about that news, aren't we? And then, well, that's the Wales stuff done. So then we'll go on to regional under-18s results. This sounded like a cracking game. I would love to have watched this. Ospreys 42, Cardiff 40. I mean, it sounds like a game where defence was optional, but that would have been a really entertaining game to go and watch. And then in the other result, RGC 8, Scarlets 24. So both Scarlets and Ospreys are unbeaten so far in this competition. So, those are the regional under-18s results. Celtic Challenge Cup as well on the weekend. Harley, do you have the results for us?
Yeah, so Britain continuing their really tough run. So they went down 58-0 to Clovers. One of the Irish teams. I mean, it's half full of Irish internationals, so struggle. But good news is that Gwalia at home in Ystrad, they beat Edinburgh with a bonus point win 26-5. So that means they've done the double over both them and Britain this season. And got Glasgow in a couple of weeks to get at least all the Scottish and Welsh teams thing. Irish teams might be a bit more tough, but I said good result for Gwalia. And bad luck for Britain. They just seem to be really struggling with the physicality of this competition.
Okay, thank you for that. Wales under-20s, they played Saturday night. I lasted 65 minutes and I had to turn it off, I'm not going to lie, because it just got depressingly grim. They conceded 9 tries as they were thrashed 63-19 by France under-20s out in Van. First half was fine. Wales impressed in the first half, particularly up front. They only trailed 21-12 at the break, but they just got absolutely blown away in the second. Steph Emmanuel, Aidan Boshoff, who I thought was very impressive, Evan Minto and Harry Thomas, they were the pick of the bunch for me. Yeah, it was all very encouraging first half, but the second half, as soon as the floodgates opened, it got pretty depressing. I had to turn it off. And after the Friday night's trauma, I just couldn't put myself through it again. Now, Nick, you watched this, didn't you? What were your thoughts
You
on the
pretty
boys?
much summed it up there. I don't think you missed anything at all there, Jamie. I tell you who was very impressive until he went off was Nick Thomas, second row from the Dragons. He looks as if he picked up a nasty injury as well. Had his foot in a brace at the end of the game, so I don't think he'll feature again in the Six Nations tournament, which is a big loss to them. And he was one of the more impressive. I thought all the front five actually did okay. Minto carried well, but as you say, they were just it was a mirror image almost of the French first team. What is clear is that whatever level you get to in France, you have a clear way of playing, and that format, that plan of playing, offloading game, big men running hard to break the gain line. So when they get into playing for the French first team, that's the way they've been taught to play. That's the way they play. They pick players accordingly with that size, the skills, and as I say, other than the under-20s attack wasn't bad at times.
Yeah, we got some skilled youngsters in our under-20 side. Like I said, really impressed with Steph Emmanuel. Like you said, Evan Minto as well. He carried well. Harry Thomas, Boshoff. Yeah, it got a bit predictable in that second half. And once France turn on the power, whether it's under 20s level or senior level, they're just very, very hard to stop. And yeah, that was Saturday night. We're going to talk about Friday night now. Unfortunately, we do have to talk about this. So, France 43, Wales 0. A sorry night for Wales as France ran in 7 tries at the Stade de France. So, just to add some context for you regarding this result, it was the first time that Wales had finished pointless since losing 31-0 to Australia back in 2007. It's the first time that Wales had not registered a point in the Six Nations era. So, you have to go back to the Five Nations when Wales lost 51-0 to France at Wembley Stadium way back in 1998. I actually remember that game.
I was there.
Yeah. Well, you was there. Oh, gosh. Yeah, it was pretty grim, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Look, we knew Wales were going to be in for a tough time. I did not see that scoreline coming. I'll be honest. I thought we'd have some points on the board, but that's how we finished. Harley, let's start with you then. Thoughts on Friday?
I'll just do the nosy thing, go through some of the stats and just sort of see if you can get the picture I'm trying to build. So start off, we look at it. Possession was about 50-50. So fine, territory 54 in France's favour, whatever. Meters per carry, so the amount of actual carrying, the number of carries, Wales was slightly more, we made slightly more meters, but France made 2.04 meters for every carry. We made 1.94 carries, so 10 centimeters difference on the average carry. Problem is that if you actually start looking at where France's possession was, 73% of that was in our half, and the vast majority of that in our 22. And so they weren't making many meters on most of their carries because they were all 5 meters out from the line. The big Wales then 52% possession in between the halfway and the French 22 line. So we just couldn't break into that 22, and when we did, we just coughed up the ball cheaply. Tackle success actually wasn't too bad, so 94 to 87. So I know we missed almost twice as many tackles as France, but actually in terms of tackling percentage, that's about okay. That's an okay amount of tackles missed. I think the problem is although we were making most of our tackles and missing the odd one or two, when we did miss a tackle, it led to a line break, or because it was taking 2 or 3 people to tackle them each time, we ended up with these massive gaps. So I think for that one Antoine Dupont crossfield kick, everyone's complaining about Josh Adams not being able to cover it, but if he'd covered it, then they're scoring through the 13 channel because he's covering the 13 channel. And you can see Anton Dupont is monitoring where Josh Adams is because they've made so much space, they can pick an option. I mean, the one thing is we didn't really kick that much as we probably should. So we made 2 fewer kicks than France, and that meant that we made 1 kick for every 9 passes, which is a bit too high. I mean, there were some great tackle performers. So Dav Jenkins, Jack Morgan, both north of 20, with only 5 misses between them. Our midfield, all 4 people who played 10 and centre, they actually, for the most part, were good, solid. But again, they were just getting smashed behind the game line, so that was our big problem. And yeah, I mean, the biggest one is France only conceded 3 penalties and we conceded 12. And one of the penalties France conceded was that Ntamak cheap shot, because there's no other word for it really. It was just a reckless cheap shot. But yeah, it just tells a tale of a team that got out-muscled, really.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys can give you more opinions, but I mean, based on the stats, you'd look at it on the surface, think, well, you wouldn't have thought 43-0 until you start looking at things like 22 conversion, in which case France got a lot and we had none. As is easy to work out. You don't need a level of maths to work that one out.
Yeah.
I just want to pick up on one of the points there that Ali made, is that we actually don't sometimes kick the ball enough. I know it's not a popular view. It's obviously the quality of the kicking is an issue, but I think I looked at out of the last 13 games that we've lost, we've kicked the ball less than 10 times out of those 13 times. And in the other 3 games that we kicked more, there was only like 1 or 2 kicks more. Because at the moment we're trying to play rugby without those big runners in the sort of second quarter, in our own half, between the 22 and the halfway line. And it's, as it was on Friday night, it's meat and drink for the behemoths, which you have in the French pack. You've got people like Antonio Mafu, and I watched it without any commentary, and basically all they do is run from one side to the other about 10 meters around midway in the field. You've got to try and put a little bit of width on the ball to make them run, to make the tackle sort of around the 15-meter line, or make them turn, kick well, so you make those big men turn. But once you're just trying to run it up sort of 5-6 meters away from a ruck, they're just going to swallow you up, and that's what happens. So once again, it's our tactics, and if with my limited coaching expertise can see that, surely the analysts should be telling the coaches themselves should be seeing that and trying to make a plan which can be executed better.
The worst thing is, though, Nick, when they did kick, it worked really well. Like you saw Ben Thomas finding lots of ground, but then there was no one there to flood in. Or Thomas would do a decent box kick, and you'd have Josh Adams, Sanjay, or Tom Rogers, and they were winning the aerial battle.
Yeah, but
then there was the next step just seemed to always be there. I mean, other than one, I mean, the only really bad honking kick I see was that Owen Watkins attempt to chip through, and then Ramos pinged a 50-22 off the back of it, and that ended off good 10 minutes at the start.
Yeah, it was poorly executed, but the idea was actually right. But then again, how often? Again, we go back to selection. How often is he Owen Watkins kicking the ball for the Ospreys? So it's not his high on his skill set. He's so. But as again, I suppose we're clutching at straws. But you do have to ask: could a team with better coaching, even the team we put out, perform better?
You're right about Owen Watkins. I do think it was the right decision to kick. I just think it was the execution. And as soon as Thomas Ramos hit that 50-22, I just thought to myself, okay, it's going to be one of those nights.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew it was going to be tough beforehand, but because we actually started the game pretty well. We were going through some phases. Okay, we were getting nowhere, which is part of the problem of this Wales team. But I thought it was a bright start. But then once Owen Watkins get charged out, Thomas Ramos just 50-22 kick, I was thinking, oh gosh, here we go. I tell you what did surprise me in this game, the scrum, because I was dreading our scrum. I thought it was going to go backwards at a rate of knots. It held up pretty well. It was under a lot of pressure. Yeah, okay, there was a couple of occasions, but on the whole, I was really impressed with the scrum, particularly Gav Thomas, who I thought was excellent. I thought he had a superb first half, and they brought him off quite early, didn't they? And they thought, oh, why is he coming off now? But fair play, Nicky Smith was just as good when he came on. He actually made a couple of breaks as well. But did this surprise you both, the scrummaging and the forwards in general?
Not too much. One, because I mean, as soon as they named Rowlands and Dav Jenkins the way around, they did. Because normally most of Rowlands' games been at 5, not 4. Because typically he's the tight head lock, so he goes heavier. But you could see they were trying to combat the weight of Antonio Miafu to give Gareth Thomas extra boost. You picked Evan Lloyd, who's a much bigger hooker, and actually all three. This is the first I've had a look, and this is one of the few times where both the starting and the bench second rows are all basically the same height, and that makes a difference. Apparently, I don't know. I'm not forward. This thing props have told me is that if they're all the same height, then you can all scrimmage on the same level, and it makes it easier to make a set platform. And Henry Thomas has been great for Scarlets. Like, one of the big things is and the worry for Henry Thomas was that he was going to be a bit of a dead weight around the field. But actually, he did something that's very rare for a Welsh prop, which is he made over a 1 meter per carry. So he did 3 carries for 5 meters, which doesn't sound like a lot, but for Welsh props, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
I thought the front row
he
went well.
was quietly quite good as well. But yeah, Gareth Thomas, he was chopping everything down. It was
I think Gareth
wonderful
Thomas
to
has
see.
been consistently good. I think everything I saw him do on Friday night, he did in the autumn as well. He's an underrated player, and I think again, looking back, I suppose, why wasn't Henry Thomas more involved in the autumn? That was ridiculous.
I think he had an injury though.
Did
I
he?
think he was
Okay, well
nursing, I think
that's
the thing
fine.
was he was nursing an injury.
All right. Well, otherwise he certainly shore up the scrum. So there were after I'd calmed down, there were some positives which we can take into Saturday's game in Rome, because we won't be playing against such a formidable pack. But it's also worth remembering France had a number 8 playing in their second row, who plays most of his games because of injury. So, but as I say, that I'm more confident that our scrum will hold up now for the remainder of the Six Nations if we don't
I
pick
don't
up
know
any
if
injuries.
was I going to say Fischetti and Riccioni? I think
Yeah, they're decent. They're good.
Props. They were causing Scotland a lot of problems. So
yeah, they're decent, but they're not going to be any better than the French front 5.
yeah.
I don't know about you, because we talked about like Owen Watkin probably not being the right person to thread that rubber through thing, but I noticed it in some of the set plays as well. Did it look like they were trying to play the autumn's game plan with a completely different makeup team? Because you saw there was that one set play off the scrum where Tom Rogers makes a break, and you can tell that was made for Mason Grady. But Tom Rogers gets enough pace and power in him, he can take away. But towards the end of the game, you had Nick Tompkins coming in off a line out, running that line, and gets held up over the line, like quite easily held up.
Yeah,
and I'm just there thinking that's clearly made for someone who's a lot bigger than Tompkins to try and
Grady, something like that, coming off the hard.
It's that's a Llewellyn Grady line type thing, and you're just like. So they sacked Alex King, they've kept his playbook, but they're not bothered with the players. And you were just looking at these things all the time, and everything went. I mean, I think one big loss for us though at the start was Aaron Wainwright, because because one thing is you're taking away a 6'8", and then you bring on a 7 when you've already got 2 6.5 7s on the pitch. So that, I mean, other than Jack Morgan, who is a phenomenal carrier, but then you had both of them staying out on the wing, so he was out in that either in the 1 or the 2 pods, depending which way they were playing. And then Tommy Reffel, who, actually, to be fair to him, had a much better carrying game than he has previously for Wales. He was making about 2 meters every carry, but he's still not an Aaron Wainwright power carry. He's not going to get.
It's not that
ball.
impressive, though, is it? Really, it's not that impressive.
It's not that impressive. This is what I'm saying. I'm the caveating of this is good for Wales or good for him, but it's not great. We really, Jack Morgan, the top for loose forwards, was 6 meters per carry.
Well, hopefully it puts it to bed all those people saying that you should pay Reffel and Morgan, because
well, like Lee did last week.
it just doesn't work.
No, I don't think it definitely doesn't work as soon as when your other back row is both of them, because both of them and Jack are quite similar players, so actually they balance each other quite well naturally.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Reffel's such an out and out 7.
Yeah.
But very specific. I mean, he did get some key turnovers, but I think you're missing something. And actually, when Freddie Thomas came on for both of them, you could see that balance starting to come back, because you had someone who's just out and out going for the tackles. still think Rollins isn't the force he was.
No, I agree.
Making a lot of negative errors. I think they could do with freshening up that second row. Because I don't know what it is though. I don't know if it's being man marked or if it's just because he's going into more, he's pulling in the defenders, but then we're not necessarily getting the quick balls to make the most of it. I thought Dav Jenkins, it showed why we've missed him since the last Six Nations. Good tackling. He was solid enough in the line out. I mean, I think he just called to himself a little bit too much. But I mean, new line out call, it's always going to happen. But yeah, I mean, I said the scrum went. I do agree the scrum went well. We were 100% our own ball, and we got a free kick out of the French scrum. So
yeah,
there won't be many people who do that.
No, not at all. I got to mention Jack Morgan again, though, because I thought he was absolutely outstanding. 81 meters carried, 15 carries, 21 tackles completed, 0 penalties.
One miss. Yeah, only one miss as well. That's really good. Those are really good numbers. David Jenkins, the only player who's tackled more, but he missed 4. So
he's just outstanding, and he is well in the mix for the Lions. He's got to be. He's absolutely outstanding, and I just cannot believe some of these people on social media saying he's overrated. Seriously, give your heads a wobble. Give your fat heads a wobble if you're saying Jack Morgan is overrated. He is not. He is outstanding. I thought he was brilliant.
Imagine him playing for Ireland or Scotland or even England.
He was outstanding.
Because he's got the skills for an attacking game as well. But at the moment, all he's doing for Wales is defending, really, isn't it?
Just whilst we're still on Jack Morgan, so Hugh raised a point with me privately, and then mentioned it on the United Rugby Rewind podcast. Maybe we should do a timestamp so we can flag it up on the YouTube video. But is Jack Morgan our Sergio Parise? Because he's basically a standout world class player in a poor team.
I mean, he could be if results carry on like this. He could be a talisman, couldn't he, in the losing course? It does have that potential. Yeah, pretty grim, isn't it? But I thought he was outstanding, absolutely superb. Can I give a shout out as well to Tom Rogers? Yeah. I think Tom Rogers is one of Wales's most improved players. Now, I have been very critical of Tom Rogers in the past when he made a couple of appearances for us, his first couple of appearances. And I always think back to that Rugby World Cup warm-up against South Africa in the Principality Stadium. He was absolutely awful. He looked so out of his depth. He literally looked like he was a competition winner for the day. But fair play, he has come on leaps and bounds. I thought he worked incredibly hard. He's actually a really good tackler as well. His defense is really good. He's pacey. If he had a lot more ball and a bit more space, he could cause a lot of damage. But I think Tom Rogers has really come on leaps and bounds now for Wales.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the back three we picked. I know Liam Williams is past his best, but
he did have a good game, Liam.
But he's got a little bit of experience, and at the time we need that. Adams was all right. I didn't blame him for any of the tries. And there was one instance, and it happens at all levels. It happens when a team is so far on top, they get the referee. And it made zero difference to the result. But it was when we broke the edge, he was high tackled Adams by Ramos. Ramos then counter-rucked in the ruck, went off his feet and tackled Thomas Williams while he's lying on the floor. So there were 3 consecutive penalties within 30 seconds, all within 3 meters of Paul Williams. He gave nothing, then gave 10 meters against Adams for complaining about a high tackle. But it happens, it made zero difference to the result. But if that should have been a penalty to Wales on 3 occasions.
Yeah, fair enough.
That was almost a yellow card in it. Like that was just almost like a full package yellow card. But I think it was not long after the ultimate red, and particularly Southern Hemisphere refs, they love to balance the hell out of it, even though the game really didn't need balancing at that point.
No,
Wales were beaten. But yeah, it was just disappointing that we looked really good in our first 3-4 phases, and you could see we could make meterage in those first few phases, and it just all got very predictable and all. And the amount of times, players are trying to spread it wide from really slow ball. Ben Thomas took some poundings, but actually, and Dan Edwards did, trying to, being given the ball when there's a French defender right in their face straight away, and you're like, well, of course they're going to throw the pass wonky or whatever, or it's going to go dodgy.
But we're too predictable. and Arrowheads are too predictable. You think of that try that Ireland scored, where they almost hit. I can't remember the break actually, but he came. I would say it was low. He came from behind the prop, whereas with Wales, it's going to one of the three, so it's so easy to defend at that level. And then we haven't quite got the big enough players to break through the gain line. But that's nothing to do with skills as such. It's about organisation and having those people getting into that position quick enough to give those options for the ball carrier.
Yeah, we need to talk about Wales's attack because that's come under the microscope big time this weekend. People like Ben Youngs as well, who did a really good analysis on it. When it comes to our attack, the Welsh management need to have a serious rethink about what it is that we're trying to do with ball in hand. Our attack is absolutely toothless, blunter than a spoon. No cutting edge, no ideas, no creativity. Our attack lacks penetration. And why do we lack penetration? Because we don't have any ball carriers getting over the gain line. When Wales made entries into the red zone, apart from Tompkins held up over the line, we just never looked like scoring. And it's just not good enough. And I know Rob Howley has come under a lot of criticism now, but can we just be honest about it? Our attack has been shit for a long time, even under Alex King. Alex King was with Wales twice. He had 2 stints. He wasn't very good the first time, and he wasn't very good the second time. But we have got to sort out our attack and try and find a system that gets more out of these players. At the moment, it's not working. There's no punch. There's no cutting edge. And it's going to be very difficult for us to try and get a win and try and develop if our attack is so blunt. But we just never looked like scoring a point, did we? We're going through so many phases, but we just never looked like we were going anywhere. And I know the possession and territory stats are even. Well, that's all good and well, but if you're not getting over the gain line, it doesn't mean anything. It's utterly pointless. What do we think about the attack?
You're right. It's absolutely toothless. But it's the frustrating thing is, I said, when you look at those first 2-3 phases, which is the stuff that Alex King and Rob Howley seem to do, they could find a way to do it. And then as soon as the structure breaks down because everyone's done the role, because you can only learn about 3 phases at a time, there was no reorganization. There was no one with the experience to say, all right, get to the 15 and we're going to run X move again. Because that's what Ireland basically do. They have this huge multi-phase attack, but it basically centers around, we run this play, then we get to this point, then we run the next play, and they do that, and they go through. But the other thing is, you look at Ireland, who again they're having issues with not having strong ball carriers. Like they think they haven't got strong ball carriers. Scotland again don't necessarily have big ball carriers apart from 1 or 2. Italy the same. How are they getting around this issue? Really simple. You double your mass by sticking another bloke on the jersey and carrying them over. But we're sending one up runners, and then we're having really slow ball because the one thing about a good latch is you've automatically cleared out your ruck, and they're not doing that. So, and it could, once again, take your shot if you're playing rat bingo. It's down to the forwards coaching. He's not getting these forwards to have tight enough pods that they're effectively, to work as a unit to try and get against these 2 defenders. I mean, it's great. We've got James Botham in the wide channel. That's great. It's great. They've got Jack Morgan in the 15-meter channel. But we're not getting the ball up to him because it's getting cocked up in the middle of the pitch because we're not clearing out that ruck ball fast enough. We're not making the penetration.
Yeah,
and
that's the problem.
And it just keeps coming back to that. It doesn't matter how we could get Rog in there, we could get Mark, we could get Dan Carter in to run our attack. It's not going to work because we're not getting the platform to run anything off. This is why it's so easy for France to absorb, and that's why they have such a high tackle percentage. Because they've got more than enough time to set. And if you've set as a defence, you can man mark and you can just go, right, well, we know the ball's going to go to him, then it's going to go to him, then it's going to go to him. So they either drift off or they can just go smash him in the first pass, which is what was happening an awful lot. We were so telegraphed that people could see, right, the ball's going out to Ben Thomas or it's going out to Dan Edwards. Right, we're going to ignore the pod in front of them and we're just going straight through.
Yeah.
Because no one runs with any aggression. No one, you haven't got these latches. You haven't got anyone who could feasibly just come on and latch. So I know there is a bit of an issue with pre-latch, but you can still have one person on. The only thing you've got to do is stay on your feet.
Or any real decoy either. So when you've got those pods, they're not getting the ball. They're not even offering themselves for the ball. So again, it's easy for defences to reorganise.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not a Wales team that lacks effort or tenacity, right? There was a lot of heart, lost spirit in that performance in Paris, but they do lack confidence and they do lack cutting edge. And we've got to try and fix it because we have got a massive game coming up on Saturday. Massive game. I don't know how they fix it in such a short space of time, but they really do need a rethink because it's predictable, it's slow, it's cumbersome. We had a lot of the ball against France and we did nothing with it. They really do need to go back to a drawing board. It's starting to annoy me. Yeah, really, really frustrating. Anything else out of that game you want to touch on? Because I know if Lee was here now, he'd want to be talking about the ref and that forward pass. I got to be honest, when I saw it live in real time, I thought, oh, that looks aggressively flat. And then there was another angle. I thought, yeah, it does look forward. But there's been a lot of people saying, well, no, actually, it's the direction of the hands and it's fine. What do we think? Was that a forward pass or not? I don't want to spend too long on this, I know, but what did you
Even if
think?
it was, then we only lost 36 now. I feel so much better.
Yeah, it didn't make any
It
impact on
makes
the result.
as I say, it makes sod all difference the result, does it?
No.
Other than it wouldn't perhaps have been as high. But yeah, I given how many things are pulled back, you'd have thought it might have been looked at. But there we are. It wasn't. So
The only
let's
thing
get
you
on with it.
assume is it was, and they've just gone. "Oh," and it's it's a Kiwi in the middle, and they have New Zealand flat is a thing, and New Zealand flat pass is a thing, and we do occasionally play it, train it.
Yeah, aggressively
If you
flat.
can get away with it, you can. I said, yeah. I mean, I thought other than his yellow card, I thought Evan Lloyd actually starting to show some of his promise. Yes, his darts definitely still need a bit of work, but I thought carried himself around the park well. Again, part of a decently scrimmaging front row. Yeah, I said, I mean, it was just a bit of a daft penalty to give away, really. But you can also understand it because Bill Berry was coming at him a lot quicker than he expected.
Yeah, it was definitely yellow. It wasn't a red. I think yellow was
It was straight,
right
yeah, it was straight yellow. But yeah, I mean, one thing for me is they've got to put. I don't. Well, I mean, they've got no choice with that walking out, but I think Eddie James or Joe Roberts just to have some extra pace in that back line. In the centres, I think that's something that we're lacking. Whether you're moving Tompkins into 12, I don't rate Tompkins as a 13. I think he's a bit too chaotic. He missed as almost many tackles as he makes. And I said, and we need someone in there who can carry the ball with some venom in the back line.
Yeah, but we'll talk about possible changes for it a bit later on. So, anything else from that France game, Nick, that you want to touch on before we move on?
No, just want to forget it.
We just want to forget it. Yeah, it was a grim night, wasn't it? We all knew it was going to be tough, but yeah, really, really tough. 13 defeats now in a row for Wales, and it's really hard to see where the next one is coming from, isn't it? Yeah, so that was that. Then that was Friday. Just something I want to quickly touch on as well. The British and Irish Lions tour to Australia. That's around the corner. I saw a post on X from TNT Sports, and they were asking people how many Wales players are going to make the Lions squad. We are going to have low representation. I think that's fair to say. That's pretty obvious. So at this moment in time, and this is just my opinion, I'm saying we're going to have 3 players in the squad. So I'm saying Dewi Lake, Jack Morgan, and Thomas Williams, for me, are likely to get into the Lions squad. It might not even be 3. It could be 2, it could be 1. But at this moment in time, I think those 3 players are standing out for me. And then you have got bolters. You could have someone like Aaron Wainwright, for example. What do you think, Harley, about Lions at the minute? How many do you see on present form and any bolters that you can
I said,
think
I
of?
mean, I quite agree with your 3. I don't know why I keep forgetting. I have one thing about Thomas Williams, and then I think about the choices of 9s. Actually, you're probably looking at Gibson Park and Gibson Park, maybe Ben White if he's the sort of player Farrell likes. But I mean, Thomas just I could see him being like a midweek captain type thing. Thomas, just have some fun games in the middle. For the players that Faz doesn't care about. For me, I'd say, and it's a shame that he's in the bolter character. I think David Jenkins is in with a shout. I think it's going to take an injury or two for him, but he's just got a lot of that raw physicality. He's a really hard-working lock around the field. His set piece is decent, so that gives him. I think that puts him in the stead with quite a lot. But I think you're looking at players like Johnny Gray, Tyke Byrne, Itoje, James Ryan, perhaps. Although if he
Can't
didn't
be.
get made, if another Welsh lot got picked over him, it would just be hilarious. And friend of the pod, Yestin, I think, would be trolling the Irish for years after it,
Hmm.
after the whole Adam Beard thing in 2021. Other than that, I mean, someone suggested Tom Rogers, but I think that's a bit too far fetched. I
Oh,
think there's too
no.
many good. I think there's too many good back three players to select from there who would go in ahead of him. And
Yeah.
I said no. I mean, Ben Thomas maybe as a utility, but even then, I'd probably be taking Tom Jordan as a similar sort of player who can cover 10, 12, 15.
Okay.
I'm not even convinced Derry Lake will get in, because I think there might be a call for Jamie George to go as an experienced hooker. And obviously then they got the two Irish lads, Calla and Sheehan. So I think the only certainty is Jack Morgan.
Yeah. Eddie Bolters,
Even then,
Nick?
I'm not.
Not really, unless Louis Rees-Zammit comes back to rugby.
I've
Even
seen a
then, I
few
don't
people
think it would.
suggest that. I have seen a few people suggest
I
that.
really don't think Faz would have any time for him at all.
No. But I think there's a wider issue. There's not an awful lot of pace in the UK and Ireland wingers other than Darcy Graham. They're not speedsters. They're very good players.
Yeah. No,
You
you're
do
right.
have some you do have some like properly quick. There are some properly quick ones, but they're not quite established. So I think Tommy Freeman for the Saints and England winger, he's pretty nippy, but very inexperienced. Emmanuel Fee-Boso, I think probably not the best in top end pace, but his acceleration, his power.
Yeah,
that's the sort of thing.
Yeah, I forgot about him, and I think this is what we were talking when we, in our messages. Sometimes your stock can go up by not playing.
Yeah, it can. Absolutely, yeah. So I'm saying at this moment in time, 3 Welsh players. Nick, you're saying 1, are you?
Well, I think Dewi's is definitely a very, very promising hooker. His darts have improved the last couple of seasons, but I wouldn't be surprised if they want to take someone like Jamie George for his experience.
No, that's fair enough.
For me, I'm thinking they might take 4 front rows just because of midweek.
Okay, well, I doubt we'll go there.
So I'd say, you're probably looking at the 2 Irish hookers, Theo Dan maybe, or Jamie George, depending on, again, if they want any, because you're going to have a lot of new Lions. There's not going to be too many returning. So you might want for an experience, but it depends on his form as well. Like, can you afford to carry, unless they're looking at him as like similar to Rory Best in 2017, as that sort of midweek, just being good around the squad, and then you've got potentially got thing. Because I'll be honest, I don't think any of the Scottish hookers are particularly great. I think they've got a great pack around them.
Yeah,
but
I like Dave Cherry, but I can't see him being picked for the Lions. I do like him though.
I like Dave Cherry. He's a very handsome man, but I would also say he's not in the same league as your Dan Sheens and your own Canada's.
No, he's not. No, not at all. Okay, so that's Lions chat done with then. Other results in the Six Nations: Scotland 31, Italy 19. Did any of you catch this one?
Yeah, I watched them all.
Yeah, because I said last night as we record, I was on Caelan's panel, so I thought I'd best watch all the games. Yeah, it was, I mean, similar in some ways, similar to the Wales-France game. Italy started off quite strongly, then Scotland's got a few quick tries, then they built, but the difference was Italy managed to build their way back into it a bit, and you thought it was going to be close, but then in the end, Scotland's quality shone through, and they sort of lost out for a bit. They did give Scotland a few problems up front, which is something to worry us about, for us to be worried about. And particularly the front row, both in the tight and in the loose, are very, very good players. Yeah. I still think I was all aboard the Garbisi hype train, and now I'm not so much still. So I do feel like he's not necessarily got the temperament for this. Also, it's a big thing that a big thing's made of the fact that this squad is mostly Benetton players. But actually, if you look at a lot of key positions, like Hooker Lucchese, I don't think he plays in France. Garbisi and Pajralo, they play in France for different clubs. Tommaso Allen plays, and Capowatso, they play in different clubs as well. So actually, a lot of that spine isn't together quite frequently. So you're having to bring them back together all the time when you're not developing too much. But it was nice to see that the Italian side didn't completely follow the Benetton form of this season.
No,
I think
I have to
otherwise,
say though, I was disappointed with Italy. I was
yeah, I
slightly
feel
disappointed with them because I mean it felt to me like Scotland were in control for most of that game, but the only reason Italy hang in there was through the boot of Tommaso Allen. And then all of a sudden they get that intercept try, don't they, from Brex. And all of a sudden it's like 90-0, you're thinking, bloody hell. And after 60 minutes it was quite close, but then they just pulled away. I mean, Darcy Graham is outstanding. I love Darcy Graham, and then Hugh Jones was superb. But I
They
was
didn't offer much in
slightly
attack either,
no,
did
I
they?
was disappointed with Italy, I have to say. I didn't expect them to win, but I
No.
expected a little bit more than that, I think.
Yeah.
to
No,
what
they
came
didn't offer
from.
much in attack either.
I thought they should have been close enough, given what they did in Rome last year. They should be there or thereabouts. But so maybe there is a bit of hangover from the URC, them not being as tight a group as you'd expect.
Their best players
But
are
yeah,
the centres.
Brex and Menoncello, yeah, they were good. They
yeah,
were okay,
by far and
you
away.
know.
Yeah, Menoncello just looks a class above.
Yeah,
Yeah, so can we pretend he's part British or Irish? Just to check him in, because
fortunately
I do
not.
think. Also, no, I mean centre's pretty stacked. Yeah, it's and then Scotland did what they had to do. Really, I mean, all the usual suspects put in good shifts. But maybe not Finn's best game, but
No,
was good enough, and they're going to pull out the stops. I mean, I think the big game for them is going to be this weekend against Ireland, because for me that is they can you can have all the things about we've won the Calcutta Cup this many times, we've blah blah we're constantly second or third on the table, but I think until they get that Irish monkey off their back, no one's ever going to take them seriously as a team, and that squad, which is getting towards the top end of its age profile now, it's too good to have never won a title. We're all talking about this France team only having won one Six Nations, but this is the best Scottish side since, well, probably even before the that Five Nations winning side, and they've got nothing but rivalry trophies.
but that's it, isn't it? And they have a wretched record against Ireland, Scotland as well, don't they? So they really do need to get that monkey off their back. Every year it's the same narrative with Scotland, dark horses, and it's really boring. It's like, well, you need to live up to that now, and launch a proper championship campaign, because come the last weekend of the tournament, they never seem to be in it. They're out of it by then. So it'd been really nice if we got to the end, the final round, and Scotland do have a legitimate chance of winning it. But can they beat Ireland? I'm not so sure.
The other game's going to be quite interesting as well because there's pressure on both. England, I didn't think were that brilliant, and certainly the defence out wide was poor, and they need to have a performance themselves at home. France, as we've alluded to, with all that talent, haven't won much, so that's but there's pressure on both teams on Saturday at Twickenham.
Yeah, I thought England, actually, in that first half, they were really good against
Yeah,
Ireland. So they lost 27-22. I thought the Curry brothers did a really good job in the back
yeah,
row of
yeah.
slowing Irish ball down. And Ireland, every time they got into the red zone, they were making mistakes. They had a real lack of composure. And England, they did rattle them for a lot of that first half. The game fell away from England in that second half, and I put that down to just the bench. Ireland's bench was so good. Guys like Sheehan, Conan, Henderson, Henshaw, all excellent. The power and the class they brought onto the field. I mean, their class did show through, but England did fade away, and they have been absolutely hammered in the press. Yeah, especially the Telegraph. I have a free trial with the Telegraph only because of their sports coverage. I hate their news and political views. Just want to make that clear. But it was a free trial throughout two priority, and honestly, they are getting absolutely hammered in all the right-wing media and English rugby press. But I didn't think they were that bad. I really didn't, and I think
The
there's
Ruck
encouragement.
podcasts are equally they really laid into them after the game.
Yeah.
So that's one of the ones I listened to on my drive up. The thing is, right, that one of the big criticisms they have is they feel like Borthwick is, he's tailoring his game plans to what he's seen for the opposition and not necessarily focusing on England. And the way, it was a huge risk to put both Currys and Ben Hill. So he's gone for a very mobile, very, particularly with the Doge, a very jackal heavy team. And it worked. It did slow down Ireland's ball so they couldn't get to. But the problem was then, when he's had to start taking players off, he's replacing Ben Curry with Ollie Chesham, who is just, well, no, actually, I mean, I think it was George Martin who plays Ollie Chesham, but, big, heavy power build. Chandler can himself, power athlete, it's more about going forward than the defensive things. So as you started losing all these jackal threats, Yes, in the end, it allowed them to power through for 2 quick tries to get the losing bonus point, which they were the only losing team to pick up a point. It completely got rid of the thing that was keeping Ireland at bay, and then all of a sudden they were able to have these moments of individual brilliance. Some of that, like the Bundyaki finishes, a guy that's a man who knows he's going to score because he's in a team that's so high on confidence. When I was on Caelan's podcast, I pointed out it's a bit like Wales in 2019, where they just expected to win games. And so things were coming off that would never come off otherwise, and I brought up the Hadley Parks tackle on Hugo Keenan, which prevented a try which had kept Ireland sort of in the game at that point, before we just basically kicked them to death with penalties. But that's the problem you're facing when you've got a good team like that. But I think England were just a bit naive in some of the things they should have attacked. Should have tried to I think they would have been better off by keeping one of the Currys on the bench and bringing him on to sort of re-up that focus and having the power athletes at the start, especially on someone like Chesham at 6. They could have targeted Ireland's line-out ball that's an even more direct attack on how Ireland attack, and that would have worked better.
Yeah.
I can't wait for him to try and work out how he's going to defend against Wales, because I don't think Wales know how they're going to attack yet. So that's going to be an interesting battle of the daftness.
No, a shout out to James Lowe. I know he's a shithouse, he's not popular, but I really, really like James Lowe. And he was busting through tackles. I thought he was excellent, James Lowe. Also, Maro Toji. I love Maro Toji, big fan. I'm not convinced he's captain material, though. I just don't think he gets on the right side of referees. So I'm a little bit suspect on... I can understand the criticisms around Toji as a captain. He doesn't strike me as a natural leader. But anyway, that's England's problem, no, how is to say. But really good test match. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely the game of the weekend. But I feel like it was slim pickings. But with the Itoje thing, someone pointed out that, with Itoje being a captain for the whole 80 minutes, and so I went, but England have been losing all these close games in the last 20 when Itoje is the captain when Jamie George goes off. So actually, maybe there is something in that. Maybe his captaincy's not too great.
No, it was a really good test match. Yeah. Also, I think rumours of Ireland's demise have been greatly exaggerated because everyone keeps saying that they're coming to the end, and I'm not really buying that narrative just yet. But really good game. Enjoyed it. Right, let's move on then. The big one, Saturday. Italy versus Wales. Dan Bigger said on ITV, this is the most important Welsh rugby match for the last 15, 20 years. Which, to be fair, is a bit of a stretch when you consider that we've had Grand Slam deciders, Championship deciders, and World Cup semi-finals in that time. However, I understand the sentiment. It's massive. And I've had people today trying to argue me it's not as big as what I'm saying. They're wrong. This is huge. This is huge because this is going to decide Wales' fate in the tournament, and it could even decide Gatland's fate going forward. Absolutely massive game.
So we want them to lose then?
Well, it all depends, doesn't it? If you're Gatland out, maybe you are hoping that... personally, I want to see a Welsh win. I want to see this wretched... I know you're joking, I know. But some fans are like that. Some fans are like that. No, you are right.
I just want to sort of carry with the semi-finals. So we lost those semi-finals, basically. So, it doesn't really matter. But the fact is, we still made a semi-final. That's still a great achievement. Those Grand Slam deciders, if we lost a Grand Slam decider, it's a pain. It'd been crap if we lost it. But to be in that position is still a good thing. If we lose this game, we're 14 losses on the spin and very likely going to be 17 losses on the spin, because if we can't beat Italy, we're probably not going to beat anyone else.
That's true. I've said that.
That's no offense to Italy, but realistically speaking, England and Ireland will be able to overpower us quite thing. Scotland will be able to outguile us easily because we have none at all. Italy probably the only team we might have a shot at, and then we're going up against Japan, and I'm not convinced we'd necessarily beat Japan on Japanese soil. Take the conditions out there, and you just know Eddie's going to have something up his sleeve if he's still there. We could get to a point where we have a longer losing streak than the Tier 1 winning streak record with 18 matches, and that's a terrifying prospect. And so for me, getting that monkey off your back is, and also you've got to think, if we lose this one, right? I think the Ireland and England games are already sold out, but the autumn tickets haven't gone yet. And what happens if we can't sell any the tickets for the autumn, we lose a lot of money. That's going to negatively affect the game in Wales, because unfortunately we need that money.
Yeah.
The way it's structured, because unless everyone's willing to start spending a grand on a season ticket and everyone fill out every stadium, we're not going to touch the sort of money that you get from the WRU payments. So, yeah, I mean, dude, it's pretty shit of us, to be honest, and it's annoying that we've let ourselves strip this. I mean, WRU could have solved this, could have prevented this from happening if we'd done what teams like England and Scotland do and had properly piss easy games. Except the fact that you're probably going to make a loss, you're not going to make as much money. You won't make as much money if you play the Netherlands on a Sunday afternoon, but you're going to win.
We should have followed Scotland's lead. That's what we should have done. We should have followed Scotland's lead.
I said this on the pod when we were talking about the summer tours. We were the one. Scotland were the team that should be going out to Australia, and we should have done that North American tour.
Yeah,
because actually, as the way things are standing, it was basically every team was progressively harder, and that's exactly the sort of building you really need, as opposed to 2 matches thinking, "Oh, we'll make lots of money with that."
Yeah,
this is the first game we've had since Fiji in the autumn, which is a team ranked near us on Saturday. So, you could argue that we were never going to beat France in a month of Sundays. But, we lost against Fiji, but we was quite close. You could argue if we didn't perhaps make a balls up of our 6-2 split, we could have won that game even with Grady's injury. So this in that sense, it's key, because Italy, for all their improvements, are still not one of the top teams.
They're a much improved team. They are a much improved team, and they've got some very dangerous players. Lamaro, Brexit Menoncello, as we know, Louis Liner. These are really good guys. So what do we need to do then in Rome to turn this around? What sort of what threats do you think Italy can pose? Because they got different threats to France. We're not going to be overpowered by Italy as much as we are, well, as we were against France, are we? They are going to be a different threat. So what do you think we need to do to get on top against the Italians in Rome? What areas can we target?
First of all, kicking. Not just kicking more, but kicking to compete. I think Ange Capozzo, as brilliant an electric player he is, he's very fragile under the high ball. And I think if you chuck a Tom Rogers or a Josh Adams at him, they're 2 tall lads, and even Sanjay, they're big, imposing players. That's going to get him. Tommaso Allen, absolute tactical master, but if you give him no time, you might be able to get something out of him there, because he is getting on a bit. He's not the most agile and athletic fullback.
And he's a 10, really. He's playing 15 for his kicking, and it was superb. It's in Murrayfield. So I think definitely attacking their back 3.
But yeah, you've got to attack the back 3. I think Monty Ioane as well is physical again. He's not the strongest aerially. They love going hard at breakdown. So that's one where I think we've got to tighten those pods up, and it can't be one at carries. It's got to be a really tight unit, and you're almost accepting the fact that even if you're not going to, all you're going to do is hit the game line, you're not necessarily cross it, just to set up that platform. And again, for setting up our kicking game, kicking the corners, we can't kick loose. If we do kick loose, that's when Ioane and Ange's going to go through. If we can keep the ball out of Menoncello's and Brex's hands, easier said than done, I know. Even if it's just a slightly more aggressive blitz, and you're not even running at them, you're running at the passing channel. They're between them and Gubbies. You might be able to route them that way. I think if our scrum holds up the way it did against France, I think set piece should be fine. And I'd like to see, so with Plumtree coming in, if him or Faletau are fit, great. If not, I'd like to see someone like Chunza or Freddie Thomas coming in at 6, just so we've got that extra line-out ball. And not just for our own ball, but I'd like to see us jump competing on near enough area line-outs. And let's put some pressure on Lucchese. Because that's one thing I noticed in that France game. Malvaca and Marchand are great hookers, but they were throwing wonky because they knew they could get away with it because Wales weren't counter jumping. So you can force some pressure on there early on, force some scrums, and then you make it a competition. For that, I do wonder if I know this is going to come out as Cardiff bias, but statistically, Teddy Williams has been one of the best defensive lineouts operators in the URC. May not necessarily be stealing ball, but he's been able to wreck mauls and reduce the quality. I think having someone like him in, either on the off the bench or starting, I think would add a lot as well. Just someone who can take some pressure off Dav Jenkins. As I said, Roland's not been playing as well as he can. So they were, I think, we're going to go. I don't think we're going to score. I think if we try to go in for who can play fashion rugby, if you score 4 tries, we'll score 5, we will lose quite comfortably. So I think we've basically got to go back to horrid Wales tactics of old.
Yeah,
And
I
literally just
settle for
grind it.
9-6.
Yeah. I was going to say, I would like to see Teddy Williams at some point doing the Six Nations, and it would be a big call, but I would probably have him ahead of Rowlands at the moment because Rowlands have not been impressive since the autumn. I thought he was very average during the autumn, and he hasn't been that good so far, the Six Nations. I don't know what's happened since he's gone to France. He just doesn't look half the player he was when he was in Wales playing for the
I don't think-
Dragons.
I'll be honest, I'd be glad to be corrected, but from what I've seen on the odd times I see Racing team sheets, I barely see him on there. And even when he is on there, he gets sort of subbed after 40 minutes. Or I know with 14 subs come off and come back on, they seem to have a weird rolling sub thing. But as well as the replacement tight end in the 23 jersey, which I hate. But that's an argument. That's a discussion for another pod. But yeah, he's just not playing well.
No, he's not.
And he
What
almost
do you
feels like
think-
he's just there because he's big. And even there, I say, well, is he that much bigger than Teddy and Junza? Not really.
What
So
about a 6-2 split on the bench?
I think for that we've got to be very careful with who our 2 outside backs are.
Yeah, sure.
So like I said, I mean, the Steph Thomas called for Dan Edwards to start, which he was all right. I mean, it was definitely not a game for a day to have your debut.
No,
I mean, and if you've got Ben Thomas on the bench, you've got 10, 12,
15 and a push.
15 to push. I mean, he has had 2 caps. He has, in his, was it 8 caps now for Wales? He's played 3 different positions. So,
Yeah.
he could cover this, so you're fine then. And then you're probably looking at someone maybe instead of having Roger, you maybe go for Ellis Bevan, who's a little bit quicker. And then you've got a wing cover. And then you're just hoping and then you're just hoping whether it's. I think with
He
that
won't do
situation
it.
is
He
unless
won't
you
do
go for
it, but-
he won't do it. But if you'd have to have Tompkins and Roberts as your centre, so that Tompkins can move out to 13. That's the only problem. Like he can move out or in, but I think we're limited because I don't think we haven't really got any wingers who can cover centre. We haven't got any centres who are proper out and out wingers. I know Tompkins has done it, but yeah, so I think you do get a little bit shoehorned there.
Yeah, okay. Nick, there will be changes, obviously, because of Wainwright and Watkin. What changes would you make for this game? Who would you like to see come in?
Well, I saw a picture that Falatau is training again. So if
Doesn't mean he's
Falatau-
match fit, though, does it? That's
exactly.
the problem.
if he isn't, well, I think we just forget about him and send him, to finish off his season in Cardiff, and he probably hangs up his boots.
It does feel like he's on the way out now, doesn't it? And that pains me to say that because I love the guy. I absolutely love Falatau, but yeah. Sorry, go on, continue.
No, well, obviously, I'm hopeful that Falatau is fit, and then we probably would go back to Falatau, Botham, Morgan, back row, which I'd be happy with that. I'm assuming Eddie James will come in at 12. Massive responsibility on him. I know everybody thinks he's a great messiah, but he's against 2 very good centres. And then I suppose for me, even though they're very inexperienced, I put Joe Roberts with him at 13 for his kicking option as well. But it's very, very inexperienced. I don't know. But as I say, I think the way to win the game really is good kicking from 9 and 10. When we go through 2-3 phases, a bit like the Scarlets play, really. If they can't make any ground after 2 or 3 phases in your own half, stick it up.
Yeah. I have to say I was disappointed with Thomas Williams on Friday night. I know he didn't have the go forward from the pack, but I felt his service was a bit slow and ponderous at times. I'm not saying drop him for Italy, absolutely not. But yeah, you are right. Better control from 9 and 10. I wouldn't have an issue with Dan Edwards starting at 10. Like some people were calling for him to start against France, and that's an absolute no-no. For a first cap, you do not chuck him straight into cauldron to start the France against France. You just wouldn't do that. But for this game, I wouldn't be against it. And have Ben Thomas in the
problem
centre.
I'd have with that is that you've got two relatively small men at 10 and 12.
I'd like to point out that they both made 7 tackles. Both Ben Thomas made a dominant hit as well on the internet, which is why he got decided to get revenge as Wolves and
You're not gonna.
But they only missed one between the two of them.
Yeah,
Tompkins,
defensively
who's
that's
your more
fine, but they're not going to
experienced
give you any.
centre.
Ben Thomas is not an international 12 going forward. Yeah, he's not. He hasn't got the bulk. I think he could be a decent 10 if he was allowed to play there more often. But he's not an international 12 in my book.
And there's some people saying Ben Thomas is an international 10.
No, but he's got no chance. He's got no chance because he doesn't play there enough.
No, and that's the problem. It's the disconnect with Cardiff and Wales, isn't it? Cardiff see him as a 12 and Wales see him as a 10. Yeah, it's a bit of a problem, isn't it? Okay, so massive game, as we said. Italy, this is a big game for them as well, because no doubt they've circled this in their calendar, haven't they? You know, they'll fancy their chances against us. They'll be favourites. Do you think they can handle the favourites tag? Maybe that's something that could go against them, because they are massive favourites. I can't remember a time when Italy was such big favourites against us than they are now. And
if they lose this, they'll lose all the other games.
Same for us then.
Yeah, exactly the same. So there is pressure on them as well. They won't. I can't. The other game they might have had a chance with Scotland, but not probably in Murrayfield. I can't see them. France they might not play well, but they'll come through. Ireland will beat them, and they won't win at Twickenham. So they will. If they don't win on Saturday, they will be played 5, lost 5.
Is it round 3 there, France, Italy?
Yeah.
So I was going to say if it was round 5 and France had just lost to Ireland, then you might be able to see a tail drop side thing. But
yeah, round 3 on a Sunday.
Even if France lose to England, they'll have a week to come round. Yeah, I think it's absolutely that their 2 best chances of getting wins with these first 2 rounds.
Yeah,
but I mean, hopefully don't take offense, Tanners, but weirdly, I don't want you to get your win in this game either.
No, we all like Italy, but we don't like losing to them, do we? That's the problem. Like, we don't want to be losing to Italy. Okay, predictions time. Predictions. Ali, what's your prediction?
So I think we sort of explained what we think would be a good game plan for Wales to beat Italy. Quite feasible, even with the personnel we've got. But I imagine Gatland's going to go really weird, and he's going to make Tompkins 10, and and Evan Lloyd is going to be switched back to number 8, and we're going to lose by 20. But I think seriously, I still think Italy are favourites. I still go Italy, but I think we'd probably stay within 7. Like that's basically as good as I think this tournament gets to Wales is. We might get 1 losing bonus point out of it.
So you're saying Italy by 7 then, yeah?
Yeah, about 6 or 7, yeah.
Okay. Nick, what about you? Can we beat the Italians? Can we finally get a elusive win?
We can beat them, but just with so low on confidence. Just can't see it happening. Italy by 5.
Yeah, it's hard to see what's going to change in the space of a week, isn't it? And there's so much riding on this game. I just wonder if the pressure's going to get to the players. However, I'm going to be a positive Paul, and I'm going to say Wales will win. I'm not confident at all, and I know I'll be wrong, but I just got. Are you
going to lead Wales by 1?
No, I'm going to say Wales by 4. I think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be an entertaining game. I think this is going to be an ugly slugfest. Oh, I don't give a shit if Wales win 3-0. I won't care. I just want to see Wales win a game of rugby now. Yeah. That's the stage I am.
I think we're all like that. We couldn't give a monkey's toss if it's a boring game. The leather's kicked off the ball. Loads of mistakes. If we just come on the right side at the end of the day, that's all that we want.
Absolutely.
Remember I said against Cardiff Zebra game start of this season. After ages of being. Oh, when's Cardiff going to get the next win? Oh, there you go, against Zebra. It was shit, but we won. So I don't care. We've won. Yeah. We've won a game.
Well, that's the thing, because Paris was about the performance. Rome is about the result. Yeah. But that was what I said last week. Palace was always about the performance. Roman's about the result. We have got to win. I don't care how ugly it is.
No.
We just need to win because I think the consequences of losing this are going to be severe for the Welsh rugby public and for Gatland and for the mood surrounding Welsh rugby. It's a must win. Simple as that. We got to win it. I'm going to say Wales by 4. But like I said, I'm not confident at all. Something drastic has got to change, especially our attack. But of course, we'll look at the team sheet when whether it comes out, was it Wednesday or Thursday, and we're probably going to be thinking, oh, change my mind now. Italy by 10. It all depends what team we pick, isn't it? You know, we got to get the balance right, but it's a must win. Simple as that. It's massive.
A nice massive bout of gastroenteritis with the Italian camp might be helpful.
Someone let off the fire alarms at 3 a.m. in the morning in their hotel or something. But yeah, that's what I'm going to go for. I'm going to go for Wales by 4. Desperately need a win. Okay, gents, I think that'll do for this week. Harley, Nick, thank you very much for joining me. And we will be back next week. Hopefully chat about Wales win, because that would be nice, wouldn't it? If we could actually chat about a Wales win. Yeah, we'll be back next week to chat about that. And yeah, until then, take care and we'll see you on the next one. Ta-ra.
Thank you. Ta-ra.
That was RAP, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. Please rate, review and share us on socials if you can, and join us again next week for more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.